Hello everybody, welcome to jurycentral.com online classes for law exams. So today I will be discussing with you the best Supreme Court judgments of the month of March 2021. So let us see the case. So the first case is Joydeep Majumdar versus Bharti Jaiswal Majumdar. In this, the Supreme Court has held that malicious allegations against spouse costing him his job and reputation not an attempt to preserve the relationship but a definite case of mental cruelty. So in a case where an army officer's wife made numerous malicious complaints against him to his superiors and various authorities, the three-judge bench of Sanjay Kishan Kaul, Dinesh Maheshwari and Rishikesh Roy justices held that such conduct cannot be considered to be squabbles of ordinary middle-class married life and it amounted to mental cruelty. Holding that the husband was entitled to dissolution of his marriage, the court said, in circumstances like this, the wronged party cannot be expected to continue with the matrimonial relationship and there is enough justification for him to seek separation. Then the next case is, and this case has done much rounds in media. Supreme Court grants interim bail to comic Munawar Farooqui and also states Madhya Pradesh High Court judgments. In the case of Munawar versus State of Madhya Pradesh, in a big relief to Munawar Farooqui, the bench of R.F. Nariman and B.R. Gawai justices has granted interim bail to the stand-up comic. The order of the court came after it was pointed out to it that the allegations made in the FIR against the comic are vague and also the procedure contained in section 41 CRPC as adumbrated by the Supreme Court in Anesh Kumar versus State of Bihar has not been followed before making the arrest, and this was the ground on which Mr. Farooqui was released on ad interim bail. The court has stayed the judgment of the Madhya Pradesh High Court and released the comic on ad interim bail on conditions to the satisfaction of the trial court. In the meantime, there shall be stay of the production warrants as well. Let us see the background. On 1st of January 2021, a stand-up comedy show was organized at Munro Cafe. The complainant, who was a custodian of Hindu Protection Congregation Sangathan, had alleged in the show the comedians were deliberately cutting filthy and indecent jokes on Hindu gods and goddesses and BJP National President Amit Shah. As a result, the comedians had hurt and outraged religious sentiments of the complainant. An FIR was filed for the offences punishable under section 295A, 298, 269 and 188 read with 34 IPC, and the applicant was kept in custody since 1st of January 2021. The applicant had sought for bail before the Court of Magistrate and the Sessions Judge respectively, but both the applications had been rejected. Madhya Pradesh High Court single judge bench of Rohit Arya justice had on 28th of January 2021 rejected the bail application of comic Munawar Farooqui and the organizers of the show. So Mr. Farooqui was booked for hurting the religious sentiments. Then the next one is, in this the Supreme Court has said that educated adults choosing their life partners is the way forward to reduce caste and community tensions, and has also came to the aid of a young couple facing threats from the elders. So the case is Lakshmi Bai Chandragi versus State of Karnataka. In a case where two educated consenting adults got married to each other without the consent of their parents, the bench of Justice Sanjay Kishan Kaul and Rishikesh Roy held that the consent of the family or the community or the clan is not necessary once the two adult individuals agree to enter into a wedlock, and that the consent has to be piously given primacy. The court also noticed that both the parties are well educated. Educated younger boys and girls are choosing their life partners, which in turn is a departure from the earlier norms of society where caste and community play a major role. Possibly this is the way forward where caste and community tensions will reduce by such intermarriage, but in the meantime, these youngsters face threats from the elders and the courts have been coming to the aid of these youngsters. So by this judgment, the Supreme Court has encouraged the interfaith or intercaste marriages and has also said that such marriages must be encouraged because they have the potential to reduce the community or caste tensions. Then the next case is Khushi Ram versus Naval Singh. In this, the Supreme Court has held that married women's hairs on paternal side are not strangers, and she can enter in family settlements with such heirs. And this case law is very important from the subject of Hindu Succession Act. The bench of Ashok Bhushan and R. Subhash Reddy justices has held that when heirs of the father of a female are included as a person who can possibly succeed, it cannot be held that they are strangers and not the members of the family who are the female. So the next case is Amitabh Das Gupta versus Union Bank of India. Very important case, because in this case the Supreme Court directed compensation of rupees 5 lakhs after a bank breaks customer's locker without just cause. And it also directed the RBI to frame rules for locker management. In a case where the United Bank of India inadvertently broke the appellant's locker without any just or reasonable cause, even though he had already cleared his pending dues, the bench of A.M. Shantana Gaudar and Vinit Sarana justices imposed cost of rupees 5 lakh on the bank to be paid to the appellant as compensation. The said is to be deducted from the salary of the earning officers if they are still in service, and if they have already retired, the amount of cost should be paid by the bank. Additionally, the appellant shall be paid rupees 1 lakh as litigation expenses. So in this case, a bank locker of the appellant, of the said appellant, has been broken inadvertently without giving any notice, and this is the reason why Supreme Court has imposed a fine of rupees 5 lakh along with 1 lakh as litigation expense. Let us see. So noticing that the customer is completely at the mercy of the bank, which is the more resourceful party for the protection of their assets, the court said that in such a situation, the banks cannot wash up their hands and claim that they bear no liability towards their customers for the operation of the locker. So this is the background. You can pause the video and read it by your own. The background is nothing. I have already told you in short that the bank inadvertently broke the appellant's locker, and this is the reason why appellant approached the court seeking redressal of his grievance, and also his valuables were removed from the locker. This is the reason why appellant approached the court. Then there are some set of obligations which have been set by the Supreme Court for allotment and operating of the lockers. So the reason is, it was noticed that each bank is following its own set of procedures and there is no uniformity in the rules, and it seems that the banks are under the mistaken impression that not having knowledge of the contents of the locker exempts them from liability for failing to secure the lockers in themselves as well. The Supreme Court has actually observed that there is no set of procedures or uniformity in the rules for the operation of the lockers and the allotment of the same, and this is a reason why Supreme Court has set these obligations to be observed by the banks, and these are maintenance of a locker register and locker key register. Then the bank shall notify the original locker holder prior to any changes in the allotment of the locker and give them reasonable opportunity to withdraw the articles deposited by them if they so wish. Then the customer's personal data, including their biometric data, cannot be shared with third parties without their consent. The relevant rules under the Information Technology Act 2000 will be applicable in this regard. And very important obligation, the bank has the power to break open the locker only in accordance with the relevant laws and RBI regulations, if any. Breaking open of the locker in a manner other than that prescribed under law is an illegal act which amounts to gross deficiency of service on the part of the bank as a service provider. So the bank can also be, can be sued under Consumer Protection Act. Then as a set of directions were also issued to RBI. It is necessary that the RBI lays down comprehensive directions mandating the steps to be taken by banks with respect to locker facility, safe deposit facility management. The bank should not have the liberty to impose unilateral and unfair terms on the consumers, and hence the RBI was directed to issue suitable rules or regulations as aforesaid within 6 months. So RBI was directed to frame a set of rules or regulations in relation to the operation of the locker facility or safe deposit facility management. Then the next one is Rachna versus Union of India. In this, the Supreme Court has held that COVID-19 a lame excuse to allow extra attempt for UPSC CSE to last attemptees. So let us see the case. In the case where the last attemptees of the UPSC Civil Services Preliminary Examination 2020 had sought an extra attempt to clear the exam in the wake of the COVID-19 pandemic. The bench of Justice A.M. Khanwilkar, Indu Malhotra, Ajay Rastogi justices has refused the plea and has held that allowing extra attempt in such a case would set a precedent and also have cascading effect on the examination in other streams. So in this case, the last attemptees have sought for a relief to allow them an extra chance of appearing in the 2020 UPSC exam, which the court has straightforwardly rejected. Then what was being claimed? So let us see. I have already told you in short, the petitioners were unable to qualify in the last attempt in the Civil Services Preliminary Examination 2020 held on 4th of October 2020 and approached the court seeking mandamus to the government to extend one additional attempt to them as they are being barred from attempting the examination in future on account of exhausting of available attempts or on account of age bar subsequent to examination 2020. Then can the court issue mandamus to frame policy? So by this petition, the attemptees have actually sought the direction from the court to issue mandamus to the government to frame policy. It was argued before the court that there is always a change in the upper age limit and number of attemptees in different spell, and that in the year 2015 the Union of India allowed one more attempt in the Civil Service Examination 2015 for the candidates who appeared in CSE 2011, and on that basis only the attemptees have again sought for extension of their attempt, one more chance to attempt for 2020 exam. It is within the realm of the executive to, the court answered this question in its words. It said that it is within the realm of the executive to take a policy decision based on the prevailing circumstances for better administration and in meeting out the exigencies, but at the same time it is not within the domain of the courts to legislate. The courts do interpret the laws, and in such an interpretation the certain creative process is involved. The courts have the jurisdiction to declare the laws unconstitutional, that too where it is called for. The court is called upon to consider the validity of a policy decision only when a challenge is made that such policy decision infringes fundamental rights guaranteed by the Constitution or any other statutory right. So in short, the court said that it doesn't have the jurisdiction to issue mandamus to the government to frame policy. However, it has the power of judicial review if the law violates fundamental rights guaranteed by the Constitution or any other statutory right. Then next one is very important judgment in this. The Supreme Court has held that bar under Section 10A IPC on initiation of CIRP, that means Corporate Insolvency Resolution Process, applies retrospectively even if CIRP application filed before introduction of Section 10A. This has been held in the case of Ramesh Kemal versus Siemens Gamesa Renewable Power Private Limited. So in this, the Supreme Court held that Section 10A of the Insolvency and Bankruptcy Code bars initiation of the Corporate Insolvency Resolution Process, in short CIRP, with respect to a default that occurred on or after March 25, 2020, even if the application for CIRP was filed before June 5, 2020, when Section 10A was inserted in the IPC. So an ordinance has been passed by which amendment has been done in Insolvency Bankruptcy Code with the insertion of Section 10A, which actually states the initiation of insolvency process under Section 7, 9 and 10 of IBC, and it also sets a cut-off date of March 25, 2020, and says that after March 25, 2020, if a person is in default of paying any loan, then an insolvency proceedings cannot be initiated against the person if the default is done on or after March 25, 2020, but this bar doesn't apply before the default which has been done previously to March 25, 2020. But here there is an issue because the ordinance didn't come into effect on March 25, 2020. It came into effect on 5th of June 2020, and by this petition the appellant is challenging in the Supreme Court that this ordinance actually doesn't provide any retrospective effect. That means suppose if any default is done between March 25, 2020 and June 5, 2020, that is the date of effect, then will a person be prosecuted for the default which he has done on or after March 25, 2020? So the Supreme Court says no, because the language of section 10A says that the default must have been done on or after March 25, 2020, even if it doesn't say anything about the retrospective effect, but still the objective of the the ordinance is to give effect to the retrospective effect of section 10A. So the court held, the division bench of Dr. D.Y. Chandrachud and Amar Shah has held that there is nothing wrong with the bar imposed under section 10A of Insolvency and Bankruptcy Code 2016 on the filing of applications for the commencement of the CIRP in respect of a corporate debtor for a default occurring on or after 25th March 2020 retrospectively to an application filed before June 5, 2020. The court has clarified that the Parliament had stepped in legislatively because of the widespread distress caused by an unheralded public health crisis. It was cognizant of the fact that resolution applicants may not come forth to take up the process of the resolution of insolvencies, which would lead to instances of the corporate debtors going under liquidation and no longer remaining a going concern. So, let me tell you, this section is very clear and it creates a bar on initiation of insolvency proceedings for a default which has been done or which has been occurred after March 25, 2020, and it has the effect of, it has the validity of 6 months up to the extent of 1 year. Then very important judgment. In this, the Supreme Court has held that person suffering from writer's cramp entitled to scribe for giving civil service exam. Supreme Court, in this, the Supreme Court has also evolved many principles, and we'll see that one by one. So the case citation is Vikas Kumar versus Union Public Service Commission. So Vikas Kumar has dysgraphia, commonly known as writer's cramp, which impedes writing. He had applied for the civil services examination in 2018 and requested for a scribe. The Union Public Service Commission, which conducts the civil services examination, denied his request, noting that scribes are only permitted for persons with benchmark disabilities. According to the UPSC, Kumar's disability didn't meet this standard as he only had 6% of a disability. He then brought a case against the UPSC, first at the Central Administrative Tribunal, then appeals before the Delhi High Court and the Supreme Court. Justice Chandrachud delivered the Supreme Court judgment on behalf of 3-judge bench with Justices Indira Banerjee and Sanjeev Khanna. I hope you understood the background. So Vikas Kumar is actually, he has some kind of disability known as dysgraphia, also known as writer's cramp, but he was denied scribe because his disability is only 6%. And according to the according to the officials of civil service examination, also according to the rules of the civil services examination, a person who has a benchmark disability of 40% or more is only entitled for writer's cramp according to their rules and according to the interpretation of their rules. So the Supreme Court answered this question. So section 2 clause R of the Rights of Persons with Disabilities Act 2016, the Act, a benchmark disability is when a person has not less than 40% of a specified disability. So that is what section 2 clause R of Rights of Persons with Disability Act 2016 says. But Justice Chandrachud noticed that this concept of benchmark disabilities is only relevant to a set of special provisions such as reservation and other benefits under Chapter 6 and 7 of the Act. However, the general definition of persons with disability under Section 2 Clause S is broader than the definition of benchmark disability. Therefore, there is no requirement of proving a certain percentage of disability. So, the Supreme Court clarifies this point and says that this 40% of benchmark disability has to be taken in the account while offering for reservation under disabled category. But it has nothing to do with allowing scribe for writing an exam. Then it also enunciated a principle called reasonable accommodation. At the heart of this case lies the principle of reasonable accommodation. Individual dignity undergirds the RPWD Act, that is Rights of Persons with Disabilities Act 2016. So let us understand what do we mean by principle of reasonable accommodation. So it acknowledges that if disability as a social construct has to be remedied, conditions have to be affirmatively created for facilitating the development of the disabled. In the specific context of disability, the principle of reasonable accommodation postulates that the conditions which exclude the disabled from full and effective participation as equal members of society have to give way to an accommodative society which accepts difference, respects their needs, and facilitates the creation of an environment in which social barriers to disability are progressively answered. So, reasonable accommodation is nothing but inclusion of the disabled on par with the able person, or accepting them with the differences they have, and also giving them equal opportunity to participate in the participate in the progress of the society. Then directions were also given to Ministry of Social Justice and Environment, and let us see what are the directions. The Union Government in the Ministry of Social Justice and Empowerment to ensure the framing of proper guidelines which would regulate and facilitate the grant of a facility of a scribe to persons with disability within the meaning of Section 2 Clause S, where the nature of the disability operates to impose a barrier to the candidate writing an examination. So a proper set of guidelines have to be framed by Ministry of Social Justice and Environment to regulate and facilitate the grant of a facility of a scribe to persons with disability. Then the important point is realizing the transformative potential of the Rights of Persons with Disabilities Act 2016. So these are the set of guidelines that they need to be incorporate in forming their own guidelines. The nodal ministry, in coordination with other relevant actors, must make a concerted effort to ensure that the fruits of the Act actually reach the intended beneficiaries in this regard. Like Article 8 Clause 2 of the UNCRPD, that means United Nations Convention for Rights of Persons with Disabilities, outlines the awareness raising measures that must be undertaken. This must be conducted to recognize and advance knowledge of the skills and abilities of persons with disabilities and of their contribution to the workforce, and foster respect for the decisions of persons with disabilities in their family life. Then sensitization programs must be held at educational institutions and in professional spheres on the condition of disability and the rights of disabled persons and the like. So the Supreme Court has directed the Minister of Social Justice and Empowerment to make sure that sensitization programs must be held at educational institutions and also in professional spheres on the condition of disability and the rights of the disabled persons and the like. So this has been the end of this session, and I hope you all have liked it. Do not forget to give a like, share and subscribe to the channel. Till we meet the next time. Thank you.